Welcome to Learning versus Teaching, a wiki I've created where I've highlighted the theories of learning, our brain-based approaches to learning, and how we use this knowledge in our classrooms. It's important for educators to understand how learning and teaching has changed over time. In the past, human beings learned by looking at their parents and imitating them. Then came behaviorism in the 1950s, where we taught children through the reward and punishment method. If we wanted a skill to be introduced, we rewarded them when the child displayed that skill. And if we wanted to curtail certain behavior, we punished them. In 1978, Vygotsky came out with the theory of social recognition. Here he acknowledged the fact that children learn from each other. They learned in an environment where they could communicate and collaborate with their peers and other people in the community. This understanding is really crucial for educators because they need to create an environment where children can learn. So allowing group discussions, allowing children to peer teach, these are some of the examples where educators today use Vygotsky's theory of social cognition. So what is the role of the teacher today? The teacher no longer should be standing in front of the classroom and teaching children for a long period of time. If we do have to do that, the lesson should be short, followed by activities which allow the children to acquire certain skills, and then a plenary section where we can talk about what we have learned and if we have any more questions. Learning has changed. We now have become a part of a learning community. Teachers, the principal, and the students all learn together. It's really important for teachers to understand who their children are in order to inform their teaching practice. So that is a whole learning process for the teachers as well. I've spoken about the learner-centered approach and how we look at it through the eyes of assessment, situation, and context, and various other tools. If you click on one of them, you can see a little more detail about these topics. Many people have come up with theories of learning. Edward de Bono, Howard Gardner, Vygotsky. So it's really important that educators get to know some of these theories. Here I've given an example of how I use some of these theories in my classroom. The brain is a fascinating organ. It's only recently that people have discovered the intricacies of the brain and how we can use our knowledge of the brain in the classroom. In this page, I've spoken about the different lobes of the brain and where they're located, what happens when they're damaged, and how educators need to acknowledge their understanding of this in the classroom and create lesson plans which can help students who are suffering because of damage to these areas. I've introduced a few videos where I show how I create activities which will help children develop long-term memory. So this is a questioning activity. This is a sorting activity. Here I've given some slideshows where children are engaged in sort of a simulation, real life use of their understanding. Under the brain and learning, I've created 4 other pages that deal with cognition, metacognition, motivation, individual and social factors. Cognition is when teachers need to understand where the children come from, what knowledge or misconceptions they have. By knowing this, we can address the misconceptions, we can further enhance their learning by improving our teaching methods. So using assessment data is crucial. Metacognition, this is a skill where children think about their thinking. It's really crucial for them to understand how their mind works, what type of learner they are, in order for them to set goals realistic goals, practical goals that are meaningful to them. Motivation deals with how children need to engage in tasks that are not only relevant to them but are meaningful. Whatever they learn should be able to be used outside the classroom environment. And finally, I'll click on this tab, individual and social factors, where how teachers used to teach in the beginning through threats and punishments with the hope of teaching them good behavior and discouraging bad behavior. But it's actually the teacher's responsibility, along of course with the parents and the community at large, but the teacher needs to create engaging lessons in order to hook the child. And finally, technology. Technology is the language we can use to communicate with children. I use Twitter, I use wikis and blogs, I use various Web2 tools and Skype with other schools from around the world. I've given various examples of different tools that I use in my classroom in order to showcase how I engage my children through technology. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much.